having babies back to back to back, yeah, I have stretch marks because, mama, you are important and you need to be taken care of. This scream cry that instantly triggers me, because a lot of times what is happening with us is moms is something is triggering us and we're not realizing, and the postpartum contractions, because they were quite painful. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hi, my name is Angela and I am a mom of 3 under 3, and in today's video I am just going to share a full 0 to 12 week postpartum update. But before I get into that, I just wanted to say one quick thing here. I am just going to be sharing my own personal experience. If there's something in here that you didn't experience or you disagree with, that is totally acceptable. I don't share any of this to make anyone feel bad or think, you know, their experience should be like mine. Each postpartum experience is different, just like every pregnancy is different. So please don't think your experience is going to be exactly like anyone else's that you see online. This is my 3rd time being postpartum. My first one was born C-section, and then I had 2 successful VBACs after that. So just remember to be kind to yourself. It took 9 months to make that baby. You're not gonna jump right back to normal. I don't like when people say that, because honestly, you're never gonna get back to that normal. You grew a baby inside of you, things changed and moved and stretched. So if you have that kind of stuck in your mind, just try to wipe that out, because let me tell y'all, and I'm just gonna be fully transparent here, I completely expected my belly to go like flat within moments of having my baby. I didn't understand that your uterus is still like stretched out and everything, probably just from movies or whatever. You know, the woman has the baby and then she's like back to 90 pounds. That's not reality. You will still look pretty pregnant for a while after having your baby. Now, if you don't have some coffee or tea, make sure you pause this video, go grab some, because we are just gonna sit down, be chatty, be besties, and we're just gonna talk about all the fun things that I experienced this time postpartum. I will also have this video timestamped, so if there's a certain thing you are looking for, you can just scroll over the bar and there will be different timestamps in this video. I kind of have everything broken down by category. So the first category I wanted to get into was just body. Basically, I wanted to start with all of the changes that happened down there, because one thing that did come to a shock to me was how much bleeding there actually is postpartum. Like I said earlier, my first was a C-section, and I didn't expect to still have to bleed. I don't know, it was just a weird phenomenon for me. But with each kid, my bleeding did get heavier, and the cramping did get much worse with each baby that I had. Yes, you heard that correctly. The postpartum contractions and cramping got worse with each baby that I had. And if you don't know what postpartum contractions are, it is a thing that happens to help shrink your uterus back down to that normal size. Yet again, another thing I did not know was normal postpartum, but it totally is. So this time I bled very heavily for the first like 5 weeks, and then it started to do this weird sort of spotting, sort of light period. It was just all over the place. Like one day I would have like nothing, and then the next day it would be like moderate, and then the next day it would be like spotting. So after the first 5 weeks, it was very odd, unnormal type of thing happening down there. I did stop fully bleeding just shy of 8 weeks this time postpartum. The next thing I wanted to talk about is how much weight I have lost. If you are planning to breastfeed, something you may have heard is breastfeeding is great because it helps you shed the weight faster, which is true, it can, but in my experience, it did a certain amount real quick right up front, and then it kind of just halted. So I don't ever look at my weight of, okay, before I had the baby, I weighed 150 pounds and I gained this much weight, you know, like 60 pounds, and now I want to be back to 150. I always look at it with how much weight I've gained total and how much I've been losing. For me, that just worked better for my mental health. Instead of looking at like, oh, I'm still 170 pounds, I would look at it as, no, I've already lost, you know, 20 pounds or whatever it was. So with Liliana, I dropped 10 pounds like super fast. With her, I only gained 30 pounds overall. I had a lot of sicknesses within this pregnancy and a lot of stress and everything. So I think that helped me not gain a ton of weight. With my other 2 kiddos, that was not the case. I'd gained 60 pounds with them. So it was nice this time not gaining a ton of weight. But so far, at 3 months postpartum, I have lost a total of 19 pounds. So I still have some to go, and that initial 10 was probably within like the first 3 weeks. After that, it did take a little bit longer. The next thing I want to talk about is the lovely postpartum hair loss. If you guys can see, my hair is cut pretty short. Having pregnancies back to back to back, I have lost a ton of hair. I have nice little new growth in here already, but I get like this weird line of a widow's peak, and I do lose it like everywhere, but that's the spot I've noticed for myself that's super significantly noticeable. I've seen pictures of myself after having the other kids, my hair's up and there's other bald spots, so I just try really hard to keep it down, but I had to cut it short because the ends were just so gross. Like some of it had not fallen out, some of it had, and it was all just weird lengths. So I just chopped it all off to make myself feel a little bit better about it, and I gave some bangs to try to help with the new growth that comes in, so it's not just like sticking out like crazy, even though it still does. But I will say, out of all of the like body related things, that postpartum hair loss has been the most annoying thing. Like every time I shower, just run my hands through my hair falls out. It's not fun. I was just sitting here recording some b-roll for the postpartum body part, and I was like, wow, I didn't even talk about stretch marks. Having babies back to back to back. Yeah, I have stretch marks. They are on like basically every part of my stomach. I also have them up my thighs and on my girls as well, because I have breastfed all of my children. So there's been a lot of changing from very big to decently sized. So there's stretch marks everywhere. I also have some weird little like extra dark red stretch marks around my C-section scar. But for the most part, after I had all of my kids, my stretch marks went from red to kind of like skin tone color. So you can't really see them unless you are looking for it. I do also have a lot of stretchy skin. I don't know if it ever fully tightens. I've heard a lot of women say that they're always still have that kind of stretchy skin there, even if they have gone back to normal or gotten smaller or working out and stuff like that, which, side note, I haven't even started to do yet. So if you haven't started working out yet, it's okay, girl, I'm right there with you. Give this video a thumbs up if you have not worked out postpartum yet. I have plans for it, it's just not enough time in the day. I just had to add that into this postpartum body part because I can't believe I totally forgot about stretch marks. Okay, this next one's gonna get a little TMI, but y'all, I don't know what happened with this third baby, but I have been so stinky, like so unbelievably stinky. I have just switched to a different deodorant. Actually, I found this one at Target yesterday. It's called Hey Humans. It's like all natural, made with essential oils and stuff. So I'm gonna try that out and see how it works, because all the other ones I've been trying have not been working. I've been putting deodorant on like 3 times a day and I can still smell my sweat. Like postpartum night sweats is a real thing, but I've been having like postpartum sweats all day long. If you have any advice on this, if you went through the same thing, leave me a comment below and let me know what you did to fix it, because I do not enjoy smelling sweat all the time. You know what I mean? All right, let us get into the next category. So the next category that I wanted to get into was just like a mental health type of category, because in the past I have struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety, so I just wanted to share how I am doing this time. But before I get into any of that, I do need to add a disclaimer in here. I am not a therapist. I am not licensed for any of this. If you are struggling with anything that may seem like you're having postpartum depression or anxiety, please reach out, talk to your provider, whether that's your kid's doctor, your OB, your primary doctor, or even if you just have to find your own therapist yourself. If you feel like you need help, please reach out to somebody. Again, I am just sharing my own personal experience in these. I am not a medical professional in that area. I know like this much about psychology that I learned in college. I took like 2 classes. So just please, if you're struggling with any of that, make sure you take care of yourself, because mama, you are important and you need to be taken care of just as much as your baby does. So because I have struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety in the past, I personally know how terrible it can get very quickly. It got very scary for me very fast with my son. I have a whole video talking about all of that. I will have it linked in the description below if you want to check that out after you finish this video. So I wanted to make sure this time that I did my very best to avoid that. One of those things is going to therapy. So I do go to therapy every other week. It is to help me not have postpartum depression. It is to help me figure out my postpartum anxiety and just anxiety in general, because my whole life I have struggled on and off with depression and anxiety. So it's been really helpful. If you are struggling with something like that, I really encourage you to go get some therapy because it is good. I know there's a terrible stigma around therapy. There's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with you if you have to reach out and ask for help. So because I have struggled with depression and anxiety most of my life, I already kind of had some like tricks up my sleeve on how I could deal with certain things. But one thing no one tells you about becoming a parent is your kids will trigger you in some way, and it's totally normal if it happens. Know that it's normal, know that it happens to all of us, but also know that you will never know what that trigger is until it happens. And if you've never experienced anxiety or depression, you might not even realize you're having a trigger. You might just be like, why in the world does X, Y, and Z make me feel this way? Like, why do I instantly just freak out on the kids, or whatever the case may be? That's anxiety, my friend. It's a beautiful thing. Just kidding. So personally, myself, one thing I realized that really triggers me very quickly, it's where I cannot handle anything else above and beyond that, is when my child cries very hard. And it happens with all three of them, but most specifically when my littlest is just, she has this like scream cry when she's in pain. She has acid reflux, and my son had that as well, and I think that's why it makes it extra triggering, because he was very colicky. Liliana is not very colicky. Overall, she is generally a very good, happy baby, but every once in a while she just gets this scream cry that instantly triggers me. And if anything else happens, I have noticed that I cannot control like my actions. And I say that not like I am abusive or anything, just I usually will just like scream and freak out. So if that's something you're experiencing and you're like, what in the world is this? Postpartum anxiety. It can happen, and that's one thing I don't think people really talk about a lot. Everyone knows that there's a chance of having postpartum depression when you have a baby, but I don't think people really share their postpartum anxiety experiences, because honestly, some people might not even realize that's exactly what is happening. So thank the Lord this time around I haven't struggled with postpartum depression. I have had the typical blues, because you do have days postpartum where you're just kind of sad. It happens to all of us. But for me specifically, because I have had postpartum depression, I have tried very hard to just not even give into those sad emotions, because I know it's just like a downward slope. If I start giving into the sadness, it can kind of just progress real quickly. For myself, this might not happen for you, but this is just my own personal experience. So, and I've had some like losses and some tough things happen since I've had my baby, and it's just been really hard to try and process those emotions, which is something I'm going through in therapy, trying to learn to process emotions, because I am not very good at that. But I just try, when I'm feeling sad, to shift the mode, try to shift the mood. I am so happy. As you can see, there's some beautiful sunshine back here. When we lived in Michigan, winter was gray all the time. In Dayton, we've had some gray days, but it's cold. It's like 20 out, but it's sunny. It's been like below freezing and it's sunny. So I think that has been helping me a lot too, because seasonal depression does happen in Michigan as well. So it probably would have been harder to deal with things had we had those gray skies all the time. So I'm really grateful. Yes, I am very grateful to be living in Ohio right now. I said it. Postpartum anxiety this time. It's been there. It's a thing. We're working through it. We're trying to get there. I think for the most part, I am handling things really well, but every day I'm learning something else that is a trigger I had no clue was a trigger. Interesting fact that I learned in therapy about anxiety specifically: when you get triggered, you sort of basically instantly go into that like fight or flight mode. So your like logical brain isn't really there. So one thing I'm trying to work through is when I get triggered is not instantly jumping right to fight or flight, and it's trying to stay at a balance in between, because when you go to fight or flight, you don't have any logic. You're just like, I gotta fight or I gotta run, you know? That's not safe. So we gotta work through and look at things logically. So if you think about a time when you were triggered and you're like, hey, maybe I'm having this anxiety thing she's talking about, think back on that situation and think about what you did, and then think about how you could have changed the situation had you been able to shift quickly out of that fight or flight. Because a lot of times what is happening with us is moms is something is triggering us and we're not realizing. And especially if you're a mom and you have more than one baby, your little baby might be triggering you and you have no clue, and then your toddler is just trying to do something cute and you're just like, get away from me, stop touching me, why are you doing that, kind of thing. So it happens. It's okay. If it does happen, you just gotta apologize, which is also another hard thing to do as an adult to a kid, but it really does help them out a lot. Emotions, 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 emotions. That is the next thing we're gonna get into here, is we're just gonna talk about all those emotions, because just like when you're in that first trimester of pregnancy and your hormones are doing one of these, it's the same kind of thing in this 4th trimester experience. But instead of having like a super incline of the hormones, you're having like a super decrease of the hormones, because being pregnant, your body created more hormones to help nourish that life, and now don't have that life inside you anymore. So your body's kind of got to shift back to normal, which I've read online can take like up to 6 weeks. So be cautious. It doesn't happen overnight, just like your body takes some time. I don't know if I've ever made it back to normal, because I was 4 months postpartum when I got pregnant with my son, and then I was 9 months postpartum when I got pregnant with my daughter. So I've kind of just been on this lovely little jumpy joy roller coaster for the last like 3 years. So one thing I have noticed has been very significant with this postpartum experience is I've been extra irritable. Sorry, babe. And I know most of that, not most of it, part of it is also due to having anxiety. Just, it's a part of having anxiety. It makes you more irritable. This is your daily reminder to hydrate. It's good. It's good. So now that I'm 3 months postpartum, my hormones are kind of settling in. Like, I can tell my body's trying to figure out what its normal cycle is going to be, because I will have days where I kind of am like, I feel like this is a period kind of week, and then I will have these other weeks where it's sort of normal. That's just been in the last couple weeks here. At first, everything was a hot mess. It just takes some time for everything to kind of balance back out. I have heard that there are some natural things that you can do. If anyone knows some natural tips, leave it in the comments below. I would love to read them, and I know any of the viewers might want to look into that as well. So overall, it was about 6 weeks postpartum when my hormones and emotions kind of started to balance out. So now that it's been a full 12 weeks, we're kind of higher up on that balancing out level. So that is it in the category of mental health and emotions and all of that fun stuff. The next thing we are going to cover is how I handled things postpartum and what I used postpartum this time. Alrighty, let's get into this. Let's get going. The last category, like I said, is just going to be how I handled things postpartum and what I used. So this time postpartum, I just took Motrin and Tylenol on and off when I got home to deal with the postpartum cramping and the postpartum contractions, because they were quite painful. So I used that to just kind of help alleviate the pain, because being sleep deprived, you know, it was a little bit harder to kind of handle all of that fun uterine cramping. But to be truthfully honest, this time I was very basic with what I used. If you watched my labor vlog, you saw that it only took less than 10 minutes to push Liliana out.
Pull your baby out.
I barely even tore it. She only put in one tiny stitch because she's like, I'm here, why not? So for the most part, the pain really wasn't that bad comparatively. With my son, I tore in 2 different places. It was really painful to like sit and move. This time I didn't really have that experience, so that was kind of nice. Other than taking Tylenol and Motrin, I used these pads because they're my favorite. I have extremely sensitive skin, so when I'm wearing a pad for a very long time, which happens postpartum, I get rashes. So I just found out recently that they have ones made of cotton that worked much better. I found that like the last 4 weeks that I was bleeding, so those were awesome. But I just get like the highest level of these pads. They are my favorite because they pull everything away from you, so you don't have that like gross wet feeling all the time, and then you're not going through like a million of them because you're not changing them all the time. I do not have any experience using like a cup or anything postpartum. I have yet to jump on that bandwagon, kind of back and forth. I do know you are not supposed to use anything in there like tampons or such, so if you have something like that, double check with your doctor, but I'm fairly confident nothing should be going in there for at least 6 weeks. I would sometimes use a heating pad as well, just for the cramping and the back pain. I had a little bit of back pain, but it was not terrible. The thing that was the worst was just on my right side here. I had some back pain because Liliana sat there for like 5 days and just pushed on that area. It was very bruised and it was hard to walk for the first like 2 or 3 days, and then it kind of just started to get a little better, so I'm pretty sure it was like internally bruised on that area. But after that was gone, the back pain was pretty minimal. I also personally love wearing the underwear that they give you at the hospital, those little mesh ones. They're super comfortable. They're so stretchy that they don't hurt or anything. There are some underwear that you can buy for that purpose. I chose not to. I just grabbed extras from the hospital and I used those. It's also nice because if you do have an accident with leaking, you can just get rid of it and you don't have to worry about it. So I know there's like people that either absolutely love them or they absolutely hate them. I say try them out. Don't just jump into the I hate them. Try it out because they are super stretchy and comfortable. You don't have to worry about anything with the ever-changing belly size. They just fit the whole time. But how I handle things postpartum this time, I will say the transition from 3 to 4, no thank you. The transition from 2 to 3 was pretty much the same for me. I felt a little more sleep deprived, but I had horrible pregnancy insomnia, so I wasn't sleeping much anyway before the baby was born. We were also very blessed to have my mother here for almost a month after the baby was born, and then my in-laws came down and my mother-in-law was here for about 2 weeks after that. So that first like 6 weeks I did have help with housework and the other kids. My husband was also off work for the first 2 weeks, and then when he went back to work, he sort of had a little extra grace, so he wasn't fully back into work, where with my son, he went back to work after 10 days, and I didn't have live-in help. I did have help because we lived in Michigan near family, but it was really nice to just have people here in the house helping out, cleaning, cooking, taking care of the other kids, so I could just cuddle and love on my sweet little baby girl. If you have any other questions related to my postpartum experience, make sure you leave it in the comments below. If you are new here and you want to join me on this journey as a mom of 3 under 3, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications so you do not miss any videos that I put out. I believe the next video that I'm going to do is going to be a nighttime routine with 3 under 3. If you are interested in watching a video on things I wish I knew postpartum, check out this video right here, and I will see you all in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!